What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, I'll be talking about the top 10 NASCAR free agents that remain on the market for the 2026 NASCAR season. So anyways, let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. While many big-name drivers have signed for the 2026 season, like Cabo signing a one-year extension with Richard Childress Racing, William Byron signing a multi-year contract extension with Hendrick Motorsports through 2029, Connor Zolch signing to go full-time Cup Series racing in 2026, and Shane Van Gisbergen signing extension along with Denny Hamlin signing a multi-year extension, there are still some big-name free agents that are still looking for rides going into 2026. Today, I'm going to talk about the top 10 free agents that will still remain on the market for next year. So anyways, let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. The number one free agent we are talking about today is Daniel Suarez. Daniel Suarez is the biggest high-profile driver that is still technically not signed for the 2026 season, as of course, he has lost his ride with Trackhouse Racing effective immediately and is still looking for a ride going into the 2026 year. He's high-profile because he's got a big fan base, and a lot of people really like Daniel Suarez. Now, the big question is, where's Daniel Suarez likely going to go in 2026? There's two rides that have emerged as likely possibilities. The early frontrunner was Junior Motorsports. Many people thought that Daniel Suarez was going to end up in a Junior Motorsports car full-time. Many thought he might end up in the number 88 car for the 2026 season, potentially a trade where Daniel Suarez would go over to 88, while, of course, Connor Zolch will drive either number 88 or 99 or 97 or 87 in the 2026 year with Trackhouse Racing. Many thought that that could be a potential trade going into next year. But now the new rumors have circulated that 88 car is not going to be a full-time ride in 2026. It sounds like there potentially could be a rotation of drivers behind the wheel, like a Corey Day, like a Raja Kruf, among other drivers who could drive that car, like another driver we'll talk about in just a short little bit. So where's Daniel Suarez likely going to end up? Well, the other new free agent ride that has become available is a 7 car for Spire Motorsports. In recent weeks, Daniel Suarez has emerged as the lead candidate to drive the number 7 car for Spire Motorsports in 2026. And there is an announcement that is actually scheduled for the upcoming days. In fact, on Wednesday, it sounds like they are going to be announcing the driver of the number 7 car for the 2026 season. And many people do expect that Daniel Suarez is going to end up in that number 7 car for 2026. Not sure the crew chief's going to be, not sure who else is going to be on the team among infrastructure, among other things, but it sounds like Daniel Suarez will be teammates with Carson Ospar, Michael McDowell 2026. I would think that's likely where he's going to end up. If not, I would think he goes to a team like Junior Motorsports, but I expect Daniel Suarez to likely be with the Spire Motorsports team in 2026. The second big free agent we are talking about today is Cory Heim. Now, Cory Heim is still, of course, driving for Tricon Garage on a full-time basis right now for 2025, but there's been a lot of rumblings that Cory Heim may not even have a full-time ride in NASCAR next year. There was talk about him going full-time at Sam Hunt Racing Xfinity Series or the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series for next year, but it sounds like that might not be happening for full-time status. The rumor going around for Cory Heim at the moment is that it sounds like there may not be a full-time seat for Cory Heim going into 26. The rumor is he'll be part-time with 2311 Racing, depending on what happens to the lawsuit over there. Part-time with Sam Hunt Racing, most likely the number 24 car that's been part-time this year but ran a lot of races. And part-time with Tricon Garage, most likely in the one truck. What blows my mind is Cory Heim is way too talented to not even have a full-time ride in the Xfinity Series. He's been so good this year in the Craftsman Truck Series with 10 wins so far this year, having statistically maybe the best season we've ever seen for a single driver in history. But because of sponsorship funding issues that Cory Heim has compared to other drivers, he's not able to find a full-time ride. I think he 1,000% without question deserves a full-time ride in the Cup Series. I think he's that good. Him and Connor Zolch, in my opinion, are the only two current prospects right now that deserve to be full-time Cup racing at this point. And it's frustrating that he can't be in that 35-car full-time. I get that Riley Hurt's team helped buy the charter, but it blows my mind how good Cory Heim has been that he cannot be full-time in NASCAR currently at the moment, it sounds like. Maybe things will change and he'll end up in a good ride for next year, but I don't expect Cory Heim to have a full-time seat. I think he's going to be a free agent looking to do a rotation. Depends on what happens with the lawsuit overall, but Cory Heim right now is not full-time and could be a free agent at the end of 2025, depending on what happens with certain things. The third big free agent we are talking about today is Justin Haley. Like I mentioned earlier, Justin Haley, we found out this past week, as expected, he will not return to Spire Motorsports in the 2026 season. And Justin Haley, in my opinion, there's a lot of questions around where he might end up for 2026. Obviously, Daniel Suarez is the favorite to take over the number 7 car next year. But a lot of questions around where Justin Haley can end up next year. Many people link him to a team like Kaulig Racing. Some think he can end up in the Ram truck program for 26, go back down the trucks and compete there. However, in recent weeks, and Chris Rice actually confirmed this on Sirius the day after it was announced last week, Hebert said that while they'd love to have Justin Haley in the program some way, shape, or form in 2026, maybe the Xfinity Series program, he doesn't think that Justin Haley will be one of the drivers for the team because Ram, they have all the drivers basically selected for 2026. Brendan Butterbeacon will be one of the drivers that has been confirmed. But Justin Haley's name I haven't heard as a likely candidate for the Kaulig Ram team, though I think he'd be a really good driver to go to that program for 2026. Outside of that, there are teams that are available. There are some decent organizations. I could see him being a candidate for the Junior Motorsports ride for next year, being one of the JRM guys at least on a part-time stint. He could split some rides with Spire. Well, Spire's out of the team, so that's not possible. But I think Justin Haley, I know there was some frustration, and he hasn't been amazing this year in the NASCAR Cup Series, but it would be frustrating to see someone with his talent, as I think he's a very talented guy with him only being 26. It'd be disappointing to see him not full-time in a NASCAR Series next year. I could see him going to a team like AM Racing. There's an opening for that next year. That would be an interesting ride for him to end up in the 2026 year. Maybe goes to like Viking. Viking has a ride available open for next year at this point. But I hope Justin Haley's able to find a seat because I think the guy is way too talented not to be racing full-time at this point. Kaulig Xfinity program, that's around next year. I'd love to see him in one of those seats for next year. But as of now, Justin Haley is still looking for a ride going into 2026. The fourth big free agent we are talking about today is Harrison Burton. Now, it was announced about 2 weeks ago that Harrison Burton will not be returning to AM Racing in the 2026 NASCAR season. One thing that's interesting is if you took a look at the announcement, he did not have a Ford badge. He's been with the Ford program at least for the last couple years since he, of course, joined the Wood Brothers organization, the Cup Series, in 2022. But where could Harrison Burton end up in 2026 with him not going back to AM Racing next year? The rumor right now is that he is likely going to end up taking over the number 26 car for Sam Hunt Racing in the 2026 season. If you take a look at Harrison Burton compared to Dean Thompson, there's no disrespect to Dean Thompson. I think Dean has done a decent job so far this year. But Harrison Burton, number one, has sponsorship funding with Dex Imaging and a couple other companies as well. But number two, he's a better driver than Dean Thompson. Dean Thompson is still looking for his first national touring win, while Harrison Burton has a Cup Series win and 4 NASCAR Xfinity Series wins. He's a better driver fit for that team, and that could lead him down the road to being a candidate for the third Legacy Motor Club car when they do get their third charter officially for the 2027 season. But as of right now, it's expected that he will be with Sam Hunt in 2026. I would think he'll be in that car. He deserves the opportunity with Sam Hunt, and I think he's earned the upgrades. I think Sam Hunt Racing is an upgrade at this point over AM Racing. The fifth big free agent we are talking about today is Matt DiBenedetto. It was announced about a week ago that Matt DiBenedetto will not be returning to Viking Motorsports for the 2026 season, and Connor Milczek's driving the car for the final 2 races this year. There's always something around Matt DiBenedetto regardless of what team he drives for. He always seems to lose his ride after a year or two being with the program. Matt DiBenedetto, there's some questions around where he might end up for 2026, and to be honest, I am not really sure Matt DiBenedetto is going to be headed. I haven't heard really any chatter around Matt DiBenedetto for next year, which is disappointing. I get Matt DiBenedetto is someone that's kind of hard to work with, but he shouldn't have been fired for Raptor the way he kind of got fired. He had to deal with Kaulig Racing to go there to their Cup program in some way, shape, or form for 2024. Obviously, that kind of fell through, unfortunately, and now for Matt DiBenedetto, he is still looking for a ride going into next year. I'm not exactly sure what the plans are for Matt DiBenedetto. He could go to a smaller team like an SS Greenlight, maybe be a candidate for the RSS Racing team, depending on what happens to that organization. There are rumors of him going to AM Racing last year. I could see him end up in the AM Racing right next year, maybe takes over the 25. Who knows at this point, but I hope he does get the chance and opportunity to be with the program next year, as I think Matt DiBenedetto is a good driver, and it would be kind of foolish if an organization doesn't take a chance on him. We'll see where Matt DiBenedetto ends up heading in 2026. I think there's some big questions around him. I think he's a good driver. I think he's underrated the way he performs with some of the equipment. And I think he's had some good runs with the Viking Motorsports team in 2025. The sixth big free agent we are talking about today is Kaden Honeycutt. Kaden Honeycutt has had a breakout season in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series in 2025, but he's also had a very interesting season as he lost his ride with Nice Motorsports in the middle of the season after he did confirm that he will have a new ride for 2026. Now, where's Kaden Honeycutt expected to go? I talked about Cory Heim quite a bit because it sounds like that he is the favorite right now, that being Kaden Honeycutt, to drive the number 11 truck for Tricon Garage in 2026. It's also expected Scott DiBenedetto more than likely will be back with the Tricon Garage team next year. I think Kaden Honeycutt is a very talented guy. I don't think he's on the same level as a guy like Cory Heim, but we have seen Scott DiBenedetto take drivers and win championships with them, be competitive. He was super competitive with Brett Moffitt, won a championship in trucks in 2018. He was super competitive with Austin Hill, won a lot of races in trucks, and he's taken Cory Heim and made Cory Heim one of the best drivers in Truck Series history ever. I think Kaden will do a solid job. I don't expect Kaden to go out there and have a 10-win season with Tricon, but I could see Kaden Honeycutt going out there and having a 4 to 5 win year and being a championship contender. There's not as much talent in the Truck Series at the moment right now, so I think he could be a factor for the championship. I would think more than likely, though, like I've mentioned, we're probably going to see Kaden Honeycutt in the Truck Series with Tricon Garage full-time in 2026. The 7th big free agent we are talking about today is Aric Almirola. Now, Aric Almirola has been with Joe Gibbs Racing the last 2 years, but there's been no official confirmation around Aric Almirola's plans for 2026. Whether he's going to come back to Joe Gibbs Racing or be in another organization on a part-time stint, that is to be determined. But I would actually be okay if Aric Almirola did run full-time in the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series next year. When you look at Aric Almirola, he's super competitive. He's always up front competing for wins. He's had 3 wins so far this year. And he's not going to be taking any wins if he is a full-time guy in the series. I know Eric's not interested in that at the moment, but I think he's way too talented to not be full-time at this point. He's had a great year, 6 wins over the last 2 years, one of the winningest drivers in the last 2 years, especially one of only 3 or 4 guys that has 3 or more wins this year. It would make some sense for him to be potentially a full-time guy. He could be full-time next year or could just be part-time. I think there's a chance he'll be back next year with a team like Joe Gibbs Racing. Maybe runs part-time with 2011, depending what happens to that organization for the near future. But as of now, I think there's some questions around Aric Almirola, but I could see Aric Almirola being a candidate for a ride in NASCAR once again in 2026, maybe back with Joe Gibbs Racing in the 2026 season. The 8th big free agent we are talking about today is Josh Williams. Now, in the middle of the season, it was announced that Josh Williams would not be returned to Call Racing for 2026 and was fired from the organization effective immediately. I believe around 5 or 6 races left in the regular season. I think going into Watkins Glen, but I can't entirely remember. Now, Josh Williams is a decent driver, in my opinion. I think a lot of people kind of took the comments he had this past week in Talladega way too seriously. He was obviously on the front row on the final restart, but obviously the 10-year Call Racing did not go very, very well. But Josh Williams is a likable guy, and I think he is a talented driver. But there's some questions around Josh Williams for next year. And to be honest, I'm not entirely sure where he ends up next year. I think the most likely option is a team like Alpha Prime Racing. There's been some new rumors surfacing about them maybe switching to Ford next year. There's also been talk that he could be a candidate for Big Machine Racing. That rumor's been kind of out there and floating around recently. Him in a second Big Machine Racing ride would be interesting, considering, of course, we know that Nick Sanchez will be back with Big Machine, but he does bring funding to the table, and Big Machine is getting some help, I think, from Spire, I'm pretty sure, with some of the funding they're bringing in. So I could absolutely see Josh Williams being a potential candidate for a team like the organization like Big Machine, but I think he ends up likely at Alpha Prime or DGM, the organization he's worked with this year. I could see him being one of those rides, and I think he'll be a candidate for one of those seats in 2026 with those organizations. The 9th big free agent we are talking about today is Chandler Smith. Now, Chandler Smith is still not officially signed for 2026. There's been some indications that he will likely be back with Front Row Motorsports next year in the number 38 truck. I would think an announcement on Chandler Smith is coming not too far down the road to go back to Front Row, but things can change because Chandler Smith has been with 3 different organizations over the last 3 years. In 2023, he was with Call Racing. In 2024, he was with Joe Gibbs Racing. Had a 2-win season there. And now in 2025, he's been with Front Row. If he's able to stick around with Front Row for the season, this will be the first time he's ran with an organization for multiple years since he was with Kyle Busch Motorsports in the Craftsman Truck Series. He's been with 4 different teams in 4 years. I like to see that consistency where he stays with a team like Front Row next year. I think he's had a good season. I think he will absolutely be a championship threat and championship contender if he gets another chance and another opportunity to be with this organization next year. I expect him to be back with Front Row next year, but there's some big questions around that currently at the moment right now, but I would lean toward him likely be back full-time next year in 2026. And the 10th and final driver we are talking about today is Christian Eckes. This is a name that I originally was not going to talk about in this video, but there's been some new chatter that's kind of surfaced around Christian Eckes for next year. There's some rumors circulating from Door Bumper Clear that Colin Racing may not even have an Xfinity program in 2026. There's been talk about that. And Christian Eckes could end up in either one of College's truck teams next year, or could end up back at McAnally Hilgeman Racing in 2026. I'd love to see him go back to McAnally and be in trucks. He was so good down there. It's not his fault what's been kind of going on with the Colin Racing team, where that team has been absolutely struggling with their Cup and Xfinity program this year. But I think Christian would fit the McAnally team a lot better. He worked with them very well, did a pretty good job with the team and program. It would make a lot of sense to be a candidate there. There's also a chance he could end up in the College truck program next year, and he'd be a good fit for that, but depends on if Dodge and Ram want to bring him in the program. But I would expect Christian Eckes to be back potentially in trucks next year. It's a shame he likely won't be full-time. His teammate Daniel Dye is another name that continues to be heard for the College truck program too, but Christian Eckes as of now will be likely a free agent in the coming days and weeks. So those are the big top free agents, but there's some honorable mentions that I kind of want to talk about that I don't think are as big. Beginning with Hailie Deegan. There, of course, has been rumors about Hailie Deegan not going back to Indian XC in 2026. There's been rumors she could end up at the McAnally Hilgeman Racing organization next year. I'm not sure if she'll do really good if she does end up at McAnally, but there's rumors Connor Mosack, we'll talk about in a minute, may not be back with that program next year. Some other drivers, there's some questions around. She might be over there next year. Next, Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon is technically still not signed for the 2026 year. If Ty Dillon does lose his seat, I could see Justin Haley slipping into that number 10 car. He fit a lot better than Ty Dillon at this point, plus he's worked with them before. But Ty brings funding and sponsorship table, and with the ECR alliance going away at the end of this year or next year, I would not think Ty Dillon will be around much longer in the Cup Series if things continue the way they're going, but I think he could be a free agent. Next up, Rajah Caruth. There's a lot of chatter around Rajah potentially being part-time with Junior Motorsports next year, maybe being full-time with Aspiring Trucks or Xfinity. There's a lot of questions around him. Rajah's had a pretty solid year in trucks. One win, has a chance to make the championship 4, has shown some pretty good consistent speed throughout the year. He could be a free agent looking for a ride for next year, but he'll get help from Hendrick like Corey Day gets. I would think he won't be a free agent for too long, probably have a ride. Next up is Avar Scott. There's been a lot of talk that Rev Racing will not be back in ARCA next year, along with the Venturini Motorsports team who's shutting down. LeVar's name hasn't mentioned for the College truck team at least once or twice, but I haven't heard anything in recent weeks around that, so I would have to think LeVar. There's some questions around him. I love to see LeVar with like Alpha Prime or a good organization. He was pretty solid with Alpha Prime in the few races he ran for the team, showed some decent speed, but he's someone to watch out for that could be a candidate for one of these rides going into next year. Next, Cletus McFarland. We've talked about Cletus on this channel quite a bit. There's 2 teams we're looking at. There's rumors of him being with a College All-Star ride, but that is kind of up in the air right now. Many people don't believe that rumor. The other team we've heard is Rhett Jones Racing being in ARCA. He could make his Truck Series debut at some point in the future. Could make some Xfinity Cup starts down the road in the next few years. Cletus could be someone to watch out for in the free agent market, but we'll have to wait and see where he goes. And finally, Connor Mosack. I mentioned Connor Mosack a little bit. Connor Mosack continues to be mentioned as a possibility to be out with the organization of McAnally Hilgeman. One of the rumors is he could end up at Viking Motorsports next year. He's probably having a tryout with the team so they can see how he can fit for the final few races of the year. And then the last big one that we kind of want to talk about, Frankie Muniz. Frankie did confirm he's not sure what he's doing for next year at this point. I could see him being with the team like Ray Hume again or Front Row or something like that for 2026. So that is going to be it for talking about the top 10 NASCAR free agents remaining on the market for 2026. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video, it does go live on my channel. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Let's go some more of that and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. Where do you think these big free agents are going to end up for next year? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Later today on the channel, we're going to be, of course, doing the Truck Series race pick for the upcoming race at Martinsville. Then Wednesday, we'll have a NASCAR news video to have the Daniel Suarez breaking news video. We'll probably have Truck Series race, Xfinity race picks from Martinsville. And then on Thursday, we'll have Cup picks from Martinsville, probably the paint scheme video. Then Friday, NASCAR news video along with the truck review and other reactions this week. And depending on what happens to weather, though, we could have postponements. Who knows at this point? We got content coming up. People like Hailie Deegan, Shane Van Gisbergen, Carl Edwards, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Ryan Preece, Riley Herbst, Brad Keselowski, Sam Mayer, Sheldon Creed, Connor Zolch, Junior Motorsports, Daniel Suarez, among other things we're going to talk about on the channel in the coming days and weeks, along with Will Brown, Brock Feeney, Cam Waters, Tony Breininger, too, in the future. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode. I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content, other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.